Welcome back, everyone, to Whispers from the Walls. Tonight, we're not just exploring a forgotten corner of history, we're diving headfirst into the ancient, chilling, and ultimately hopeful heart of winter itself. Before Santa was jolly, red, and delivering gifts down a chimney, December had some truly wild stories walking the snow.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, we think of December as all twinkly lights and carols, but imagine what it must have been like centuries ago. No central heating, barely any light after sunset. That kind of darkness, it births some intense legends.
Exactly, Jane, and that's where we begin tonight. In the Alpine regions, places like Austria, Germany, Switzerland, winter wasn't just a season, it was a brutal test of survival. Food ran low, wolves were a real threat, and the cold was genuinely deadly. So out of that fear, those long dark nights before the solstice, came stories.
Stories to explain the fear, to give it a face, and arguably one of the most famous, or infamous faces from that era is Krampus. He's become quite a pop culture icon lately, but his origins are so much deeper than just a spooky character.
Absolutely, Bob. We're talking about a horned creature, goat's legs, a demon's face, those curling horns and glowing eyes that, honestly, probably reflected firelight in some dark hut and gave someone nightmares for weeks. He rattled chains, carried birch rods, and on the night of December 5th, he'd step into villages. That night became known as Krampusnacht, the Night of Krampus.
The eve before the Feast of St. Nicholas, right? So while St. Nicholas was preparing to bring sweets to the good kids, Krampus was, well, dealing with the not-so-good ones. It sounds terrifying to a modern ear, but I imagine back then it was more than just a scary story.
It was. It wasn't meant to traumatize children, not entirely. It was meant to teach consequences. In a world where wrong choices could literally mean starvation or freezing, those lessons were vital. Krampus wasn't snatching souls or anything that dramatic. He was the hard truth of winter. Not everything in the dark was friendly.
And that's a crucial distinction. It wasn't about being evil for evil's sake. It was about balance. St. Nicholas rewarded the good, and Krampus, let's just say he gave a reality check to the little terrors who lied, stole, or caused trouble. It was a clear delineation of right and wrong within a very strict survival context.
What often gets missed is that Krampus is actually older than Christianity itself, older even than the legend of St. Nicholas. His roots stretch back into pagan winter spirits, the wild men of the forest, ancient solstice rituals. He's tied to a much older, deeper understanding of the natural world.
So the birch rods and chains weren't just about punishment. I always thought they were instruments of torture, for the naughty kids.
That's the modern interpretation, but traditionally, the birch rods were symbols of purification. Birch is one of the first trees to leaf out after winter, a sign of rebirth. So it wasn't cruelty, it was cleansing the old year so the new one could grow. And those chains he drags, they were meant to bind him, to keep this ancient winter demon, this wild spirit, under control. But as we know, any ancient spirit tends to slip loose, especially at night.
It's a beautiful thought, really. The idea of cleansing and renewal, even through something that seems scary. It's not just about a monster, it's about a natural cycle. And today, Krampusnacht is this wild, chaotic, joyful celebration. I've seen videos, giant parades, people in fur costumes and carved wooden masks, fireworks, even fire breathers. And a lot of mulled wine, of course.
Oh, it's incredible. Kids are laughing, adults are screaming and running, and Krampus is chasing people with bells clanging and chains rattling, just like he did centuries ago. It's a testament to how these old stories never truly die. They just adapt. They march with louder bells.
It sounds like a blast, honestly. A healthy way to face the darkness, acknowledge it, and then party with it. It's a far cry from the commercialized Christmas we often get caught up in, isn't it?
It is, and that's the perfect segue actually. Because old winter traditions were always made of pairs. Shadow and light, fear and comfort. Winter is a balance after all, darkness and rebirth. Krampus was never the whole story.
That's right, because walking just behind him, or perhaps even alongside him, was the keeper of the Evergreen. the other half of the winter equation.
And this is where things get really interesting, because long before Santa wore red, he wore green. And I'm not talking about an early version of the modern Santa. This wasn't St. Nicholas. This wasn't a bishop. He definitely wasn't a jolly Coca-Cola mascot.
So who was he then? The Green Man, right? I've heard that name in different contexts, but never really connected it to Christmas.
Yes, he was known by many names. The Green Man, the Winter Father, the Spirit of Yule, and in England, Father Christmas. He wore deep forest green robes and he carried symbols of life that refused to die in the cold. Ivy, holly, pine. He was the embodiment of the warmth of the hearth, the promise that winter wouldn't last forever.
He walked the land during the solstice season, not checking a naughty or nice list, not climbing down chimneys. He was offering blessings, feasting, storytelling. He was the reassurance that life slept under the snow but never truly vanished. He was the warmth in the deep, dark season.
And this is where the blending really begins, isn't it? When Christianity spread across Europe, these traditions didn't just vanish. They clashed, then they blended. St. Nicholas brought generosity, Father Christmas brought feasting and joy, the Green Man brought rebirth. Pagan solstice rituals brought fire, evergreen decorations, and the idea that winter was a doorway, not an ending.
So all these different figures kind of merged into one over time. It makes so much sense now why we have so many different elements to Christmas. The tree, the gifts, the feasting. It's all from different layers of history.
Precisely. Eventually these characters coalesced into one figure. A man who gives gifts, who embodies kindness, who brings life to winter. And it wasn't until the 19th and 20th centuries that his green robes slowly, subtly shifted to red. Thanks to British illustrators, American artists like Thomas Nast, and yes, eventually Coca-Cola cementing their version into global culture.
It's wild to think about, isn't it? That before he was the iconic red figure we all know, he was the winter green we still hang in our homes. The holly, the ivy, the pine boughs, they're echoes of this ancient green Santa, reminding us that life persists even in the harshest cold.
And that brings us to the core of it, really. Krampus and the Green Santa seem like total opposites, don't they? One's a horned demon, the other's a spirit of renewal. But they're not just opposites. They're two halves of the same tradition, two sides of the same very old coin.
They truly are. Krampus was consequence, the Green Santa was renewal, and St. Nicholas, when he entered the picture, was generosity. Together they formed a complete winter myth. Darkness, then reflection, then light. It was a spiritual cycle, not just a shopping season.
That's a powerful way to look at it. The shadow walked first, reminding people to face the truth, to examine their actions. Then came the evergreen, reminding them hope was still alive, life would return. And finally the saint arrived with gifts. It's like a narrative arc for the soul in winter.
It makes so much more sense, doesn't it? The modern holiday has, in many ways, only kept the light. We want the gifts, the joy, the warmth. But Europe, in many of its ancient traditions, still remembers the dark. Because in old stories, you need both. Light without shadow feels fake, almost saccharine, and shadow without light feels utterly hopeless.
Folklore, at its heart, survives because it keeps us honest. It reflects the full spectrum of the human experience, and the winter experience, which was intense for our ancestors. It wasn't just happy holidays, it was survive the cold, face your demons, and celebrate the return of life.
And that leads us to why these stories still matter today. Maybe we don't literally believe in horned demons chasing naughty kids. Maybe we don't think a green-cloaked spirit is wandering the forest bringing blessings. But the truth behind them, that's the part we still feel.
Absolutely. Winter still asks us to slow down, doesn't it? To reflect, to shed old habits, maybe even face our own metaphorical shadows. We're called to remember the warmth we've built, the light we carry, and the people who make the cold bearable.
And maybe that's why these stories, like Krampusnacht and the Green Santa, are resurfacing now. I think we're thirsty for meaning beyond the consumerism. We're looking for myth, for something older than shopping carts and shipping deadlines.
It's a search for deeper roots. Krampus, in his way, reminds us to own our darker moments, to acknowledge our mistakes, and to understand consequences. The Green Santa reminds us that life always returns, that hope is resilient, even when things seem bleak.
And St. Nicholas, the gift giver, reminds us that kindness matters, that generosity connects us, and that sharing our blessings makes the world a little brighter. They're not just characters, they're archetypes embodying essential human truths.
3 ghosts of winter then. 3 old companions walking beside us into the longest nights of the year. And I think that's a much richer, more meaningful way to approach this season than just a countdown to Christmas morning.
Definitely. It gives a whole new perspective to the evergreens we put up and the festive lights we string. They're not just decorations, they're symbols of ancient promises.
And the darker, colder nights aren't just something to dread, they're an invitation to reflect, to cleanse, and to appreciate the warmth and light all the more.
So, next time you see a cheerful Santa, maybe take a moment to imagine him in green. And if you hear a bump in the night on December 5th, well, perhaps it's just Krampus reminding you to be good, or at least to reflect a little.
Thank you for wandering into the winter shadows with us tonight on Whispers from the Walls. It's been a fascinating journey into the intertwined legends of Krampusnacht and the Green Santa.
If you love this episode, or if folklore, mystery, and old world chills are your comfort place, make sure to follow Whispers from the Walls, share the show with a friend, and leave a review. It truly helps more listeners find their way into these dark hallways with us.
And if you want even deeper dives, bonus episodes, or the special Week with Osprey series, you can join us on Patreon, where the walls whisper a little louder. You'll get exclusive content and help support the show.
Until next time, everyone, stay warm, stay curious, and remember, even in the dark, the evergreen is waiting.